What's up, everybody? Welcome to the new and improved podcast name. That's right. Getting rid of the old shitty Neutral Zone Infraction name and instead upgrading to the Pass Interference Podcast. In all seriousness, actually, what it is that we had started the podcast, we had talked about a name, we got hyped on the name Neutral Zone Infraction, uploaded the first video, did all that stuff, and then eventually what happened is that right when we were about to do our second episode, I said, "Oh shit, there's another podcast by that name." So instead, what I did was we went according to plan. We were like, "Oh, we'll just kind of avoid them." Eventually, we did collide with each other. We talked it over with those guys. Again, they're really nice guys in the end. If you want to hear more about their thoughts about Ravens football, they primarily cover Ravens football. Go ahead and check out their podcast at NZI Podcast. I'm going to bring on my hosts. Like I said, we're at the new and improved Pass Interference Podcast. I'm excited for the name. I spent an hour and a half fixing the logo. That was a pain in the ass. But regardless, you can catch us on Twitter at P_I_podcast. Also, you can catch us on iTunes, Play Music. After this episode uploads, and 2 more episodes will be on Spotify. And, of course, we are hosted on Podbean at passinterferencepodcast.podbean.com. Joining me, as always, the host, or I shouldn't say the host, but the friend with the mostest, with the bootiest. I don't know. Go ahead and let's bring on Johan. Johan, John Neckridge, how are you, buddy?
The beardiest coming in. Like I said, no beef with the Neutral Zone Infraction. My fellow Ravens fans over there. So shout out to them. We are the Pass Interference Podcast, and we are ready to go, baby.
All right, and of course, joining him as always as well. Probably we were talking about the biggest shit talker in our group, Bronson Pompilio. How are you doing tonight, my friend?
Fantastic as always. Moving on to bigger and better things with the name change. Don't really care whether they talk Baltimore football or not, but let's move forward. Stepping stones, baby.
Yeah, absolutely, and so like I said, it was a mistake on ultimately. I'll take the blame on it. It was a mistake on my part for not doing more research and not doing more due diligence. But hey, what can I say? Shit happens. We're all human. Tonight we are doing actually a early podcast. Normally we do these on Fridays, but this week, Bronson, I heard you are going to the New York Comic-Con, so we are going to instead be doing it on Wednesday, which is today. It is currently 11:20 at night. Oh boy, and we like to talk a lot, so we're going to get this show started here. Any going to any panels while you're on Comic-Con, Bronson, or?
I'm going to as many panels as I can. I'm definitely number one priority is the Dragon Ball panel, so I will be there. Faux show.
Who are they going to have there? Is it Sean Schemmel and Chris Sabat, or who they have?
Yeah, I think they're going to have the entire Broly movie staff there. So
nice.
Any cosplays they have lined up?
Do I have cosplays lined up? Hell no. There's like a whole lot of work that goes into it. What they don't tell you is all this extra security you have to go through. So as much as I would love to put the time, money, and effort into that, I don't have the time to put the time, money, and effort into that to only put in more time and effort once I get there. So not doing it. I'll wear a t-shirt from My Hero Academia and we're Gucci.
Yeah, why don't you, I was going to say, you should dress up as Midoriya, you can just spike up your hair, put some, get some green in there, you'd be the perfect Midoriya. You could put some rosy cheeks on your cheeks. Be like Midoriya pre whatever the fuck it is. All for one.
I'd rather go for like a week all night. Really baggy t-shirt.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny is that while we're talking about this, John has no idea what the fuck we're talking about. So
it's true.
So I will admit.
It's okay. It's okay. I hooked him up with the Verve. He's got the Verve. Eventually, hopefully, one of these days, he can hook it up on his phone. He can start watching My Hero because it is amazing. That's a different day for a different podcast that maybe we can start up one day too. Instead, this is the football podcast. I'm sure nobody wants to hear about anime and all that fun shit. So, all right. So the first game on the docket this week is the Bengals versus the Falcons. Bengals start off 3-1. Andy Dalton comes back with a late touchdown pass to AJ Green. Who else? 7 seconds left. Both quarterbacks had really great games. I sat Giovanni Bernard in my one fantasy league, and thank God that didn't bite me in the ass. But yeah, Falcons again. I don't know. They for the last couple of years they've lacked that killer instinct. I feel like it's been since the Super Bowl that they have lacked that killer instinct to close out games. Bronson, do you agree with that, or do you think it's more than that?
To a degree, but I think it goes deeper than that. And I've said this every week when I pick the Falcons to lose, and it's because they have lost. They have lost 4 or 5 defensive players the last 4 or 5 weeks to IR. They have literally lost the starter on defense every single week. They lost another one yesterday, one of their starting D tackles. They've lost 2 All-Pros, and you can't sustain that, especially with a head coach that's a defensive-minded guy with an offensive coordinator that makes questionable calls and doesn't really utilize his number one receiver to the best of his abilities. He'd rather use him as a possession receiver versus a touchdown machine. Granted, Calvin Ridley's getting the touchdowns, and they are putting up points, but they're not playing defense anymore. And the Falcons of old, before Dan Quinn came through, the Mike Smith era, and that was the Falcons. They scored a lot of points. They lost a lot of games because of it. And they're not playing D, so this is going to continue to happen, and that's why I picked the Bengals.
Yeah, you're the correct one in this. I thought the Falcons would come back after another heartbreaker last year, but again, it just they don't have that killer instinct to close out the games. Like I said before, John, Bengals are in your division. They're 3-1. As of right now, are they the team to beat, or do you think it's, to go back to a question that I was going to pose during the first week, is it just Marvin Lewis? Is he that good of a head coach? Has he really rallied this team behind him, or is he just kind of lucky? He just kind of, does shit and shit happens.
Definitely lucky. Although he does always get it done in the regular season. I will talk about the Falcons. I do agree with Bronson on their defense. I mean, how many times do you see a quarterback throw for over 400 yards and no interceptions, and yet they lose the game? I mean, if you don't have a defense, I mean, it's hard to win the game. The Bengals did play a solid game. They did lose Tyler Eifert in that game as well. I don't really want to talk about the injury because it looked very gruesome. If anyone did see that injury on TV, that was not good to see. We did see Julio Jones really come back in that game. He, looking at the stats now, I mean, he took in 9 receptions for 173 yards, so that was good to see. But, I mean, if you don't have a defense, I mean, how are you going to win these games? I mean, big win for the Bengals to go into Atlanta and come away with a win. But, I mean, without defense, I mean, how do you win games? I mean, you could do anything you want on offense, but if you start losing all these key guys on the D, I mean, it's hard to win games.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think the Falcons struggle. I think their offense is still explosive enough to where they should be winning. But again, the questionable offensive play calling, you score points, but it feels like they let off the gas. I believe their offensive coordinator is Steve Sarkisian, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he needs to go back to hitting the bottle, because that was when he was a good head coach and a good coach in general. So that's a terrible joke right there. It's a terrible joke right there, but sometimes you gotta hit those hard punches. So, yeah, and of course Tyler Eifert, we wish him the best. Unfortunately, lots of talent. Probably, when he's healthy, probably a top 10 tight end. Arguably top 5, but definitely top 10. But that's the issue with him, is that he's always been unhealthy, and of course with his ankle now in tatters. I mean, if he gets a shot next year, I don't think it's with Cincinnati. I think it's with another team, and I think it's probably a low veteran minimum deal if he's good to go. Again, it all depends. But all right, moving on to the next one. I'm sure Bronson is excited to talk about this one. An absolute drumming at the good old Soldier Field. Soldiers came out and mowed down those Buccaneers before they could even wash ashore, I should say. 48-10. Absolute just dominance by the Chicago Bears, both offensively, defensively. Of course, Mitchell Trubisky, 6 touchdowns to tie Sid Luckman back in the 1940s. That is a stat and a half right there for you. Bronson, I'll go to you first because I'm sure you want to talk about this game and you're salivating at your mouth and all that. Was this Mitchell Trubisky's coming out party, or do you think the Bears fans should just kind of just pump the brakes just a little bit?
Well, first of all, it's a good day to be a Bears fan, not just because of this week, but as a whole. As the beginning of the season, the first quarter is done, and the Bears are in first place. I mean, if I would have told you before the season started, by week 5, the Bears would be in first place, every single person in the room would have laughed at me. I've been saying this all year. This division is going to come close. The Minnesota Vikings are not going to be as good as everyone thinks they are because of how bad their offensive line is. Kirk Cousins is not going to be used to it. The Green Bay Packers have to rely on Aaron Rodgers' health to make it to the playoffs. The Bears added Khalil fucking Mack. All right? MVP.
Which I saw you added his jersey into your Arsenal collection.
Absolutely.
So.
I gotta have it. I got all the backers, man. And I before the draft, okay, I'm gonna take it back for like a 30-second little statement here. Before the draft, when I wanted either Tremaine Edmonds or Roquan. Those were my 2 top picks. I knew we needed a linebacker. We needed someone in there opposite Danny, and I was like, I don't care what number they take as long as it's number 52. Ray Lewis and Urlacher are going into the Hall of Fame. The Chicago Bears have every 50s number fucking retired. Like, we're running out of 50s, okay? You got 50 with Mike Singletary. You got 51 with Dick Butkus. You got Lance Briggs. You got Brian Urlacher. You got all of these linebackers that have just come through Chicago and just killed it. And there's no numbers left. So, like, all right, 54 is gone. I want 52 on the team. Like, that's literally what I was saying before we drafted either linebacker. I was like, I want a 52 linebacker in Chicago. The Ravens just got their Ray Lewis, Urlacher. I was in the mood. Like, I want to see some 52 action in Chicago, right? We get Roquan. I was mad as hell that Anthony Miller took Alshon's number and then Roquan took 58. I was like, God damn it. Like, what happened to 52? 3 weeks later, we trade for fucking Khalil Mack. I lost my mind, man. I was like, there he is. You got your next Hall of Fame linebacker in Chicago wearing 52. Book it, stamp it, notarize it, send it to the courts. It's happening. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's probably going to easily at least win NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Chances of him winning MVP are very slim. But granted, I would say his case for MVP should be higher than anyone else because if you look at our defense and what it was, if no one was paying attention to it last year, it was top 10. We have all the same starters back. You put in one person and look what it's doing to the team. Literally one person, and that is the definition of MVP. Anyway, outside of that, the Mitch Trubisky stuff, dropping 6 touchdowns, that was great. This is what I've been saying. He needs to learn. He needs to adapt. He has literally just now played more NFL games than he has college games, okay? In a system that is going to challenge him mentally, constantly. And he did not have the benefit of what Patrick Mahomes is having in Kansas City. He did not have that ability to just sit on a bench for 15 weeks, study the fucking game. Literally, I dropped my mic. I'm sorry. He literally did not have that benefit of learning for an entire year with no responsibility. Mitch came in, learned in an offense that just ran the ball 45 times. Now he's actually expected to learn an offense at a fast pace. I can't tell you how big. I would tell the Bears fans to temper expectations, only for the simple fact that we did play the Bucs. But granted, this is something that Mitch absolutely needed. And it's even better that we're going into a bye now with that like excitement in the locker room right now. And I'm done.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was a great win to go into the bye. And we all picked the Bears for this game. And of course, I have to give you props to Bronson, because you did say Jameis Winston would come in and play some football, and he did come in during the second half. Now, here's the caveat to it. And again, I like Mitchell Trubisky. I think he is going to be fine in that Matt Nagy offense. I think if anybody could have reached him, this was definitely the quarterback, or I should say the head coach that best could fit Trubisky. Now, the issue being, of course, this Buccaneers defense has not been good. And we've been waiting, and we've talked about it for the last couple of weeks. We've been waiting. They have playmakers. They have Levante David. They have Quan Alexander. They have Gerald McCoy. You know, they have role players as William Golston, Carl Nassib, Vinny Curry, defensive backs, Brent Grimes. I know he's been hurt, but Brent Grimes. But I know they've lost Vernon Hargreaves for the year. I mean, this is not a good defense. This was probably the best situation that Chicago could have asked for in terms of the fact that they could have Trubisky going into the bye, have that confidence going into Week 6, and go up against the layup of a defense. Now, John. And that's not to say that what he didn't do was special, because it was. 6 touchdowns still against a pro team. That's incredible. 0 interceptions. That's the key right there. 0. Not 1 pick. 1 sack. They've only got 1 sack against him. I mean, that's about as clean of a game as you can get for the Chicago Bears. John, looks like the Fitz magic has run out in Tampa Bay. Jameis comes in second half, looks pretty decent, throws up a couple picks, but it's one of those things where I think he was trying to force a couple balls where he shouldn't have, but he was trying to get his team back into it. How do you feel about this Buccaneers team going forward? How do you feel about the Bears going forward? What are your thoughts on this game?
To take away from this game, I think the Fitzmagic has run out in a hurry. I mean, they didn't waste any time putting Winston in this game. He came in the second half. He was 16 of 20, did throw 2 picks. But to get back to the Bears, I mean, Mitchell Trubisky, I mean, he really lit up the scoreboard. We saw a lot of what he can do. Threw 354 passing yards on 19 completions. And the scary part is, I mean, he really threw the ball to, you would think, all right, this is a game where Allen Robinson's going to come out and ball. But, I mean, Allen Robinson only had 23 yards. Yeah, he had the score. But, I mean, you talk about Cohen, you talk about Taylor Gabriel. I mean, both of them, they both caught balls for over 100 yards that game. And shout out to Trey Burton. I mean, he caught 2 balls for 86 yards. I mean, this is a Bears team where if they can get it going on offense, I mean, we don't even need to talk about them on defense. I mean, their defense is scary. If they can keep it up on offense, I mean, the defense could be in cruise mode. And like what Bronson said earlier, I mean, come week 5, I mean, we think we're talking about, Minnesota's going to come back. They're going to be a great team. And if not them, Green Bay, they're still going to be Green Bay no matter what. But here we are. We're talking about the Bears, man. I mean, this is it'll be division down the line where, I mean, if the Bears can keep this up, I mean, let's not sleep on them. I mean, you gotta believe, man.
Right.
Well,
this is why you. I was
I'll
going
tell
to say
you-
this is why you trade 2 first-round picks for
Yep.
a talent like Khalil Mack. So,
Right.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Exactly. You pay him, and boom.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here's what I'll say. Also, you were speaking about our offensive weapons, John. The craziest thing is we didn't even have Anthony Miller in there.
Exactly.
And I'll tell you right now, this game alone had me the most impressed about Kevin White. I've never been impressed by that piece of shit bust of a bastard. But that boy looked like an offensive lineman out there. He literally led like 4 or 5 key blocks that led to touchdowns that game. He was literally a blocking nightmare. He finally did something that was useful to the team. So props to you, Kevin White. But secondly, what I'm going to tell you is, guys, look at our fucking schedule. Our hardest games are now behind us. You put us, the only next hard games we have is the LA Rams and the Patriots. Those are the 2 games that we have hard. We play the Miami Dolphins, the Jets, the Bills. We end the season with the 49ers. Then we have Detroit twice. Then we got to play Minnesota twice. I'm being generous and going to say that we just, split the games. I think, honestly, deep down, I want to say we sweep Detroit. But I'm going to say we win 1 against Detroit, lose 1, win 1 against Minnesota, lose 1, and we're going to fucking beat the Packers at home. We're going to fucking beat the Packers at home.
I can see
Note it. Make
a
note. Make a note. We lost by 1 fucking point, and we are not going to play. We were at Lambeau. They got the edge there. It ain't happening again. If everyone's healthy come that game, we're going to win that. And I did the math. I went through everything. If based on, and I was being very honest with myself, not overly analyzing it, but based on what I said, by us losing and winning a game against each divisional opponent, losing to the Patriots, losing to the Rams, we're 11-5. That's 11-5. The Rams were 11-5 last year. Just think about that.
Well, and I think definitely the Bears, with that addition of Khalil Mack, and again, if they can keep the offense going, not necessarily at a 6 touchdown throw.
Give me
touchdown.
3. Give me 3 every game.
Yeah,
Give me
if
3.
they can keep up the offense and keep up, I mean, you could that week when they play the Rams. What's that week? What game is that?
I want to say like 10 or 11, and then we play the Patriots like week 6, dude. Can we please get that flex to a primetime game right now? Because I need to see Tom Brady running for his life from Khalil Mack.
I think we'd all like to see that.
Yeah. Right? Can we please get that flex ASAP, NFL? If it's a 1:00 game, I'm going to be butthurt. I haven't even looked. But, I'm looking right now.
Yeah, it's Khalil Mack, again, is a dominant force. Just remember, Oakland says that John Gruden says it's very hard to find pass rushers in this league.
It's a 1:00 game. It's a fucking 1:00 game. So we go from Miami to New England to the Jets to the Buffalo, Detroit, Minnesota, Detroit, Giants, Rams week 14. So, we close the season with Rams, Packers, 49ers. You want to talk about playoff implications? It's going to be those last 3 weeks. Those 3 weeks are going to change seeding. And every single one of our games are 1:00 games from here on out. Oh, that breaks my soul. Oh no, we got a Thursday night game against Detroit. That's about it.
Well, talking about soul-breaking games is, of course, the next game we got going on. Lions going to Cowboys. Cowboys escape with the victory. Are 2-2 on the year. They end up winning 26-24. John, we've talked about Dallas. This is a weird team. Ezekiel Elliott runs for 152 yards. Looks like the Zeke of himself. Of course, and 88 yards and a touchdown going out of this game. I want to go something, and I want to say something rather than talk about this game, because this game was pretty decent. We can talk about this game a little bit more. But the news coming out this week is that Dez Bryant, and again, this can all change. Everything's changing with Dez, and everything's changing with the Cowboys, and so on and so forth. But the big news this week is that Dez Bryant is open to returning to the Cowboys. Do you think Jerryland is hoping to bring him back the X? Is he ready to throw up that X again, or is it just like, I think we're done with that. I think that Dez is my boy, but gotta keep going with this team.
I think you have to at this point. I mean, later on we'll talk about Bell, but I mean, really this game, the only thing to take away from it is just Zeke Elliott. I mean, he put up 152 yards on the ground. He also caught 4 catches for 88 yards and a score. And without that, I mean, would you look at the Cowboys? I mean, Cole Beasley's been all right. He's been their number one guy. But, I mean, that other than that, you really only have Zeke. I mean, Dez has had some opportunities to take a couple deals from other teams. I know
including your Ravens.
Yeah, the Ravens gave him a pretty solid offer in the offseason. He turned that down. And, I think moving forward, I mean, you just, why not? I mean, do you want to sit out the whole year and see what happens, or just go back to Dallas? I mean, I think at this point they might as well. I mean, I think it's kind of a win-win on both sides. The Cowboys, they do come away with a win. They did win 26-24. Lions came off a big win against the Patriots the week before. But the only guy you really look at on the stat sheet is just Zeke. I mean, without him, I mean, they definitely don't come out with a win. The Lions, they were celebrating last week because Kerryon Johnson was the first 100-yard rusher in a few years. He didn't really do too crazy on the ground. Golden Tate had a pretty solid game. But, I mean, at the end of the day, the Cowboys come away with the win. And, I mean, I'm all for it. Bring Dez back. Bring good old 88 back to Dallas. Let's do this.
Yeah, and Bronson, I know you hate the Cowboys. I know you hate talking about the Cowboys. You're from Texas. You think that the Cowboys are. It's funny because I know 2 people that are from Texas that absolutely cannot stand the Cowboys, and it makes me smile every time knowing that I can look upon you and look upon also one of my coworkers. His name is Trey, who's a Steelers fan. Unfortunately, John, I'm sorry, but but yeah, he both you and him hate the Cowboys, and puts a smile on my face. What do you take away from this game? I mean, Detroit comes away with this loss. I mean, they could have won it. Does this put sour grapes? Does this give them hope? What do you take away from this, Bronson?
Okay. I think Detroit should have a better record. I think Detroit honestly should be second place in our division. They're not getting enough credit. Detroit should have won that fucking game, and I'm mad that they didn't. And that's taking a lot for me to say. All right, I'm mad that Detroit, my division rival, did not win that game. After watching it, seeing it, granted, I do not like Cowboys fans too much, and I don't really care for the glitz and glamour of America's team. But very disappointed with how that turned out, and it simply was just the game was over the moment Zeke caught that pass on a linebacker for 40 some odd yards or whatever it ended up being. But the Detroit Lions are playing really good defense under Patricia, and I did not expect them to play as well as they are, and they're buying into his system. And that game was all defense for the most part, man. It was run game and defense, classic football. And with the whole Dez thing, he's more than likely going to be a Cowboy again because there's been reports, there's been talk of Dez and Jerry meeting. They went to a fucking Beyonce concert together 2 weeks ago. I mean,
so right there.
And that when they let Dez go, they probably said, hey, don't count us out. Dez went to Twitter, made everyone think, oh, well, he's definitely out. And then 2 weeks later, well, they're at a fucking Beyonce concert. Probably all right, so things aren't looking so good for us. The media is coming for us. The receiver position isn't quite like what it used to be with you. Maybe this is some crazy scheme that we plotted for you to get a little healthier, take some extra time without causing a distraction from the team. Jerry's a businessman. He knows business. And he may have easily just said, hey, like, look, go. Just fucking go. We're going to cut you. And then if you don't get a better opportunity, come on back. We'll bring you back. No issues for us. No issues for you. And the only other opportunity he had were the Browns and the Niners. The Niners, they're done. They're not going to take any wide receivers. They don't want any help. They're going to just focus on the draft. They're going to try to play, the upset card all season long. And the Browns, I think they just really don't have any interest. I don't think they vibed with him. And I think, you watch the Hard Knock shit and whatever. It just didn't seem like a good fit. And
no,
Dez doesn't.
I think he wanted, because I did watch the Hard Knock stuff when they had the episode where he came on, and I think he was excited in the terms of maybe making Cleveland a contender, but just knowing Dez and just knowing his career and just knowing how he is, I really think he wanted to sign with either the Eagles, the Giants, or the Redskins at first. Now, of course, I think he does want to come back home. I think he wants to come back home to Dallas, and that's fine. But I think he was important on having those revenge games. He was like, I'm going to show that I've still got it, even if it's the only 2 games where I show up. He was concerned about, I'm going to come in and I'm going to, catch 5 balls for 200 yards and 3 touchdowns, and there's nothing you can do about it. So,
yeah.
And
My only stipulation is if he does come back to Dallas, I'm very curious to see what his contract looks like.
It'll probably just be a 1 year. It'll probably be.
I don't think it is, man.
I think it will be. I think it'll be 1 year. I think it'll be because here's how I visit it is that the Cowboys will probably sign him to a 1 year. We'll say $5 million, $6 million, whatever the case may be, deal. He finishes up the year, and then when they get some more cap space in the upcoming offseason, that's when they can look to sign him to we'll say a 3-year, we'll say $26 million contract, something to where it'll appease him, it'll appease the Cowboys. Dez can, end his career as a Cowboy, which it should be. Even though he is a Cowboy, and I hate the Cowboys, I love seeing players, especially iconic players. Again, Dez Bryant, probably, one of those iconic Cowboys wide receivers. Hated the guy watching him, catch touchdowns against us, but he should never wear another uniform other than the blue and white with the star on the helmet, those Cowboys unis with the 88 on the back. So, and going into a different game, that's not. I mean, we don't really have to talk about this. We can. Buffalo goes into Lambeau, throws up some goose eggs. I mean, Buffalo just looks awful in this game. Aaron Rodgers looks pedestrian, but hey, this is one of those games where Aaron Rodgers can look pedestrian, and he can come in there and throw an interception. But I mean, that defense give 7 sacks, doesn't give Josh Allen anything. And there was a couple times where if Josh Allen, and you're starting to see it, he doesn't trust his offensive line, and you see it. There's a couple times in the game where if he would have stayed in the pocket, and he had a pretty clean pocket, if he would have stayed in the pocket, maybe stepped up a couple steps, he could have had some easy completions. And instead, he instantly rolls out as soon as he sees pressure. John, is that concerning for you? Is that something that we should be concerned about as Buffalo Bills fans? I know we're not Buffalo Bills fans, but for those Buffalo Bills fans that are out there, is that something to be concerned about with the happy feet, or is it just a young quarterback trying to make plays for his team?
I think a little concerning, not having really a solid offensive line for a rookie quarterback can be very problematic. You hope it doesn't really hurt his career going forward, since they put out a lot to go out and get this quarterback. I think Josh Allen's a solid QB. I mean, but it's hard to really rely on this guy. Going to Lambeau Field, going in there, they're coming off a huge win against Minnesota. And, I mean, doesn't have the best game. He is a rookie. They didn't really have a run game going for them. McCoy's coming back from an injury. But I mean, it's hard to just rely on, a rookie coming in this game being like, okay, go out there, get this win, but the offensive line isn't doing anything. I think this is more of Green Bay coming off that big loss the week before going into Washington and just getting stunned. It didn't really seem like they had to really do too much to go out and get this win. I mean, they get the shutout, they win 22-0. Gets Green Bay back on the track moving forward. I hope it's not too big of a problem moving forward for Josh Allen. I mean, he's had to come in and do a lot with a team that wasn't really expected to. It's expected to do too much this year. I just really hope it's not going to put a huge damper on him. I mean, I think it's more so just Green Bay coming away with the win. Aaron Rodgers, he didn't really have to do too much with this win, and I think that's all it really is, honestly.
Yeah, Bronson. I mean, what did you take away from this game? Do you want to talk about this game, or you kind of want to skirt by it since it's?
I'm going to say two quick things. First thing is the Bills. That's fine. We talk about the offensive line. You got your quarterback, all right? You invested in it. Your offensive line is playing like garbage. You have an old, aging running back. Invest in that offensive lineman. Get the top lineman in the draft. Chances are you'll be in a position to do so. Second thing that I took away from this game was the lack of points the Green Bay Packers fucking scored. All right, the Buffalo Bills have a solid defense. It's not phenomenal. It's not great. Their secondary is lacking. Their front seven is decent. They play well for McDermott, and they only put up 19 points?
22 points for the Packers.
22 points. Okay, that's not enough. All right, they need to be able. You should be putting up more against inferior defenses. All right, Aaron Rodgers is going to have to play better going up against better defenses, and I feel like half the issues that they're having on offense has to do with the defenses they're going up against. They went up against Minnesota. They came out with a tie. They went up against your Redskins with a very good interior defensive line. Rodgers is scared right now, and he lost that game. He's thinking about his leg a lot, and I think it's taking away from his game. And if he wanted the leg to heal, he would have sat out and let it heal. But he chose instead to play and continue the problem all season to give the team a chance to win. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think he kind of played devil's advocate here, and I think he's settling for thinking too much about the injury and then trying to play through it versus just sitting, taking the time, and then trying to come back to win the games later in the season at 100%. Every time he gets hit now, I'm like, oh, is this the one? Oh. And then he's got to play the Bears again. Yeah. He was terrified against us. He wasn't jacked up beyond repair. He was scared, went into the locker room, had to cool down, decompress, put some ice packs on his face to come back out and try to win. And then they adapted, they game planned around the defense at a very vanilla level that it was. I don't know. Aaron Rodgers doesn't look right. And I also think he really fucking hates McCarthy. And that whole relationship is failing. But anyway, we're done.
All right. I mean, definitely, it was a. You're right. They should have put more points on. This is a Bills team again that doesn't impress me much. To quote Shania Twain, this is a team, and we talked about it, of course, a little bit later, and we'll talk about it more when it comes in. We're gonna do some scouting later on when the offseason comes in. In Bronson, you'd be surprised. When we get to the offensive lineman, when we get to scout the offensive lineman, you're going to come away and be like, holy shit, there is maybe two guys, but even then, they're not franchise left tackles. Right now, I think the top guy is the left tackle out of Alabama, and he's projected to be a guard in the NFL, a very good guard, a very solid, fantastic guard, but a guard nonetheless. And he can play He could probably play some tackle. Don't get me wrong, but that's not his best position. His best position will be guard, and I don't think that helps Josh
What I'm going
Allen.
to tell you, okay, well, it may not, but don't tell me that I'm wrong in saying that the Bills take players higher than where they should be taken.
Oh yeah, they definitely do. So
okay, then.
But we'll see. Like I said, and
they'll get their choice. But I'll tell you right now, their greatest need is offensive line, and it's going to be hard to pass on that in the first round.
Oh, no, and I'm not saying they won't. And my only caveat is that this is definitely a weak draft compared to the other ones where we've seen. It's a weak quarterback class. It's a weak running back class, at least at the top. You're not going to see a franchise guy. At least right now, I have my guy in mind that I like, and we'll scout them, like I said, later on in life when we get there. But as of right now, it's not a very good class. That's why you saw the Saints. Here's a good point that was brought up in a different podcast, the Stick to Football podcast. That's why the Saints went out and traded their first round pick for Marcus Davenport. They felt that they could get their guy who is going to help their team better out this year than they could find getting one guy this year and one guy next year. Because there may be 15 guys who have round one grades, and that's not saying that there's only 15 guys who are going to get drafted in round one. It just means that there's 15 guys who are graded at round one, and then everybody else is kind of from 16 down is kind of like, oh, well, you can throw them in wherever, and there's nothing exciting about them. So, but again, we'll save that for the off season because, spoiler alert, I love the draft. So
same.
All right. So in those for those picks right there, the last two picks, we had the Bears. Obviously, all of us picked the Bears. We had the Lions. We fucked up on that one, and we had the Packers. So good stuff there. So 2-1 there, right there when it comes to that. So, and then in the upset shocker, the Tennessee Titans, even though they're at home, even though they're going up against a Carson Wentz who's coming back from an ACL tear, the Tennessee Titans come back to win. Marcus Mariota has a solid game. Does Marcus Mariota stuff. Carson Wentz, you definitely saw it. He threw for way more yards. And, I mean, we could talk about it now. If you want Bronson, or we can wait until later, but looking at everything, Alshon comes back, he plays, 8 catches, 105 yards, but Philadelphia falls to Tennessee. Tennessee is surprisingly now the leaders in the NFC, or I should say the AFC South.
Can I just take over?
But,
well, I will say this like I did last week. Do not be surprised. I said this. I'm quoted. My voice is recorded. Do not be surprised if the Tennessee Titans win this game because that defense is good. I said this. They are playing for Mike fucking Vrabel. He is getting the best out of his players. They believe in him. Bringing in Dean Pease helped that defense. Anytime a player comes on as a coach, an ex-player comes onto a coach and has success, the team is going to believe in them because they can relate to their fucking coach. It's not some fucking old dude or some young guy who has no experience, dude. This shit works. It works if the coach knows what they're doing, and I commend Mike Vrabel for coaching defenses for as long as he has in Kansas City and Houston. He got experience. He has experience. He can point to players and be like, yeah, like J.J. Watt, you know him. Jadeveon Clowney, y'all thought he was a bust? Well, I turned him into a beast. He literally is getting that team to play. And I have been saying this, that the AFC is going to be haunted by the Titans all fucking year. All year. That team is going to be in it. Like, I have had them winning the AFC South all season. Like, I would not be surprised if they won the AFC South. Corey Davis caught that game-winning touchdown. He finally got the boost that boy is looking for. Mariota is playing through injury. He is playing to the best that he can right now. His arm, his joint will heal. Lots of bathtubs.
Perhaps
But
some
no.
blowjobs will help.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, dude. And if they can get Derrick Henry running like he was last year, then the sky's the limit. I mean, losing Delaney Walker could hurt them in the long run, but right now, dude, like, I can't believe it. Like, Rashard Matthews is gonna feel like a chud by week 16 for leaving that team.
Yeah, and you could definitely see that this is a well put together team. They definitely come back overtime and win it. John, your thoughts on the game, and then we can talk about it now. We can talk about when we talk about the Steelers. Some trade rumors going on about the Eagles. Maybe looking across over the cities there, looking over to their neighbors and going, hey, we could use a Le'Veon Bell, even though we've got Jay Ajayi, we've got all these players. But first off, what are your thoughts on the game?
Well, I mean, I think you really got to look at the Titans. I mean, these guys are really a dark horse going in through this week. I mean, they come up with a huge win into the defending Super Bowl champions. Mariota has a really solid game. The run game wasn't really too crazy, but Corey Davis, who comes away with a game-winning touchdown, he had a hell of a game. I mean, 161 yards receiving. That's really big. I thought the week before Carson Wentz was going to come away with really game-defining game. He didn't have it too bad of a game. I mean, 348 yards, 2 scores. They're really hurting at running back right now. I mean, Jay Ajayi is hurt. They rushed for 70 yards. I think moving forward, they got moved with Wendell Smallwood at running back. I mean, with Jay Ajayi hurting. But, I mean, outside of that, I mean, Zach Ertz is their top receiver. He received 10 passes for 112 yards. Alshon Jeffrey did have a big game, 105 yards. But, I mean, this Titans team, I mean, no one's really talking about them right now. But, I mean, I think in the AFC, I mean, they are really that dark horse since no one's talking about them moving forward. I mean, this could be a very dangerous team going forward. And shout out to Dean Pease, my boy, on defense. I mean, they are doing work. And if they keep this up, they could be a dangerous team moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think right now they're definitely they're leading the AFC South. They're definitely the front runners there. Well, I shouldn't say they're definitely the front runners. They're right there with Jacksonville. They're flip flopping between the two of them on who's going to take over that division. So, but this is definitely a strong Titans team as we've ever seen before. Yeah, this is a good game, and on to the next one, I guess. Also, little caveat there. I picked the right winners. So, I was the only one who picked the Titans this week. Everybody else picked the Eagles, so go fuck yourselves.
Well, I picked the Raiders and the fucking Bengals, so
we're
go suck my...
We're not talking about the Raiders right now.
And I picked the Redskins. I mean, that takes the cake, so let's go.
You picked... The Redskins didn't play this week. Moving
forward.
Motherfucker,
I'm talking about the Packers game. You know what I meant, bitch.
Moving forward, suck my dick. Houston goes into Indianapolis, another overtime game here, 37-34. Andrew, holy shit, I didn't even realize that. I'm sorry, I don't really pay much attention to these games. I'm usually sleeping, so when I look at these stats, like these numbers, Andrew Luck threw for 62 times, so holy fucking shit if they didn't find some healthy arm action, I guess, in his arm. If they didn't trust his arm, they wouldn't have him throw 62 fucking times.
Oh, and they had him throw a Hail Mary pass just for shits and gigs.
Yeah, so
that's
awesome. That's awesome. So, but Houston comes away with the win. Deshaun Watson has a good game. Again, the running game over there in Houston looks porous, but I really can't blame them since they're another team with a very poor offensive line. John, what do you make of this game? Any news, notes, takeaways? get you hyped up, get you sexified. Even though we all picked the Colts to win this game, we kind of fucked up on this one too.
Yeah, we did. I mean, we thought the Colts were going to come away with this win. They still don't really have a run game going for them. I mean, their leading rusher was Jordan Watkins, 8 carries for 16 yards. Not really going to get it done. The Texans come away with a big win. They were both 1-3, like before we were talking about the Titans. I mean, I think the Titans are still really the dark horse in the AFC and maybe in this division. I mean, Lamar Miller didn't really have a really big game. This is really a tale of both quarterbacks. I mean, they both look pretty sharp. It's good to see Deshaun Watson still having it going. They come away with a big win. DeAndre Hopkins had a big game. Correct me if I'm wrong. Kuti, he has a really solid game as well. He was over 100 yards as well. It's really interesting. I still don't know what to make of this AFC South division. I think as the season goes on, it might as well be the Titans division with the way that they're playing, especially on defense. Both quarterbacks did play. They did ball out. Andrew Luck did have the better game statistically wise, but the Texans come out with a win. And I mean, unless anything else changes, I mean, this was a very interesting game, and I still don't know what to make of it. I mean, the Texans get the win. They're both sitting at 1-3, not too impressive, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, the Texans get the win. I still don't know what to make of this game, to be honest with
you. Well, it's definitely one of those, as the AFC South, it kind of was a must win for both teams. And we talked about last week that when we all picked the Colts, that the Houston Texans had to win this game. Otherwise, Bill O'Brien's job was on the line. I honestly still think ultimately he gets fired. I mean, you're going to see probably it'll be a race between him and Todd Bowles on who gets fired first this year. But Bronson, another story coming out of this game, again, Deshaun Watson takes 7 sacks. Andrew Luck gets sacked 4 times by J.J. Watt, Davian Clowney, but the guy I want to spotlight on Indianapolis' defense is a guy who was taken in the second round. A lot of people thought they overshot for him. Guy from South Carolina State, Darius Leonard, comes in. I mean, he's wrecking the league right now with a lot of good tackles, a lot of sacks. He's playing good football. What do you make of him? And then what do you think of the defenses really in both this game? Even though both teams gave up massive points, it still was a pretty good defensive game.
No, I love that they reached for the guy. I mean, yeah, everyone shits on teams for reaching, but if your guy's fucking there and you don't think he's gonna be there by the next time you pick, you fucking take him. You fucking take him. If you want to go to a team and be like, oh well, they reached. Well, yeah, maybe that worked. You can throw that term at a team that likes to draft best available. Ravens. I mean, there are prime examples of teams that do that. If you wanted to take that guy, then yeah, we can call you reachers because you didn't take the best available. But some teams don't believe in that philosophy, so shut the fuck up. Secondly, I like the young pieces on that defense. The defensive coordinator out there, I forget his name, dude from the Patriots, doing solid things. You can clearly see some Bill Belichick defense with Matt Patricia over there. There's definitely an understudy of Bruin. There was lots of rave reviews about him. He was supposed to take over the defense, I believe, if Matt left. But Josh apparently got him to be his defensive coordinator in Indianapolis and then fucked him.
Well, yeah, the defensive coordinator you're talking about is Matt Eberflus, who actually came from the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
But even still, you're right, Josh McCown did fuck him.
Yeah. I mean, McDaniel's not McCown.
Whatever.
But,
same fuckery.
Yeah,
I've been drinking, so.
It's okay. But, yeah, that's all I'm going to say about that. It's just, it's interesting. I want to see Malik play better. But outside of that, I'm done.
Yeah. This was a fun game, nothing more. It's kind of like one of those where Bronson kind of familiar with that. You just kind of have your fun with it. You just kind of use it up for what it's worth and then toss it to the side. Moving forward. Moving forward. Sorry, I've been drinking. One of the beers I had was a beer called Dragon's Stout or Dragon's Milk, one of the two. It has 14% because it's barrel aged bourbon beer. So very good, very potent. Definitely feeling it. So definitely feeling it in the mood. Speaking of feeling it in the mood, next game we got Miami going up against the New England Patriots, and what did I tell you last week? The New England Patriots were going to come in and they were going to right the ship. Tom Brady doesn't really have necessarily a great game per se, but they the defense that I've been clamoring about, that I've been saying, hey, this defense doesn't look that good. They shut down everybody on that Dolphins offense. Ryan Tannehill looked like shit. Frank Gore was their leading rusher, and Frank Gore is still in the league, and I don't know how. This is a guy who is 35 years old, still in the league. I mean, that's impressive right there. Sneaky Hall of Fame running back there, I believe, in Frank Gore. But
he needs to be. He really needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
He really needs to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys who have been, you always underestimate him and you always forget about him, but that's a guy who's been, up until this year, the most dependable running back. Even going into, again, his 14th season, his 35th year, you think that running backs slow down and he still keeps on churning. John, defer to you again I'll start with Bronson because Bronson picked the Dolphins in this one. What went wrong?
One of my bold picks didn't work out. I'm sorry, guys. I can only hit so many. I'm three for four. Yeah, they suck. I'm over it. Both teams suck. But
I'll say, I'll take over. Here we go. Last year, the Patriots started at 2-2, and they end up in the Super Bowl. They didn't look too crazy. They come up with a big win at home, 38-7. Sonny Michel looked really solid on the ground. He ended up with 112 yards on the ground. He had 25 carries. Tom Brady did only finish with 274 yards on the field with 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. But I think this really goes back to, the Patriots have really dominated the Dolphins on it being at home. I think, if I remember correctly, they've won like the last 9 or 10 games at home against the Dolphins. So, the stats do speak for themselves. I know Tom Brady's getting up there. They do come away with another win. The Dolphins are still a pretty solid team. It's still tough for them to go into New England and come away with a win. I think a lot of the defenders really looked at, okay, here comes Josh Gordon on the field. He didn't have a huge game. He only took away with 32 yards on the field. Nothing too crazy.
He was only thrown to 2 times, so he caught both those passes. And those are definitely, he's definitely that speed threat. And here's the thing to think about with this Patriots offense is that they've been missing their true number one, their white wide receiver, their Julian Edelman. You talk about some pretty white boys up there in New England. You can toss between Tommy Boy, the Gronk, and Edelman. And I tell you what, Brady gets his favorite target back this Thursday. We'll talk about that game later, but this is definitely a nice tune-up game for the Patriots. Again, hard to come away with a win in Foxborough, but this is definitely I said last week, a lot of people panic. A lot of people said that the Patriots are done. I don't think they're done necessarily. I think definitely this was. We talked about Belichick was going to come in. He said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to win this game, and we're going to make the adjustments correctly, and he did so. He definitely saw that. So
Exactly. Once you get Edelman back on the field, I think it's going to be a big difference for this team moving forward. Not only do you have to worry about Edelman and Gronkowski, and you still have Josh Gordon out there. I think it's it's really going to open up the field for Tom Brady moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So, next game here, we've got the Jets going into Jacksonville playing the Jaguars. Jets ultimately lose 31-12. John, you picked the Jets. What went wrong?
What went wrong? I mean, picking the Jets, apparently. I mean, that just was not a good pick on my part. I mean, Sam Darnold didn't really have a solid game. I mean, he did, 167 yards on the field with a touchdown. Nothing too terrible, but, I mean, Blake Bortles came out. He was 29-38 for 388 yards, 2 touchdowns on the field. They're still missing Fournette on the field, and he's going to miss a few weeks moving forward. But, I mean, I'm still confused about this Jaguars offense. I mean, if Fournette ever becomes healthy later on this year, will they be a more complete team? I mean, they come away with a big win, but I think this is just, a game where the Jaguars come home with a big win, and the Jets didn't really do anything on the field. But I'm just more interested in seeing how this Jaguars team does once if Fournette becomes healthy moving forward.
Right, and Bronson, that's the caveat here to this Jaguars team. Now, they do have the benefit of when they were not a good team, they do have a benefit of a lot of high picks, a lot of good picks. One of those picks being a TJ Yeldon. Now, statistically, 18 carries, 52 yards, but he does have a touchdown, but through the air, three receptions, 48 yards, a touchdown. TJ Yeldon is a former second-round pick. He's never been, a lot of people overlook him, but I honestly think he is a very, very good running back. I just think that when you were up that high for Jacksonville and you thought Chris Ivory was the guy, but then, you have a Leonard Fournette drop into your feet, you got to take the best available player. Is this a concern with TJ? Do you have any concerns with TJ Yeldon leading this team until Fournette gets back healthy, or do you think it's Yeldon's time to churn out some yards and make some money for him this offseason?
I've always liked Yeldon. I always felt they kind of treated him dirty, like Baltimore's treated their running backs dirty in the past. Never seemed to really know how to commit to one. They recently just did with Alex, but I felt like they really mistreated him, and they still don't fully believe in him with the whole Corey Grant thing. And then they also brought in Chris Ivory back in the day, like you said. But I also will say the Jacksonville Jaguars really fucking bore me. I'm bored. I'm not going to lie, I'm bored. I'm over it. It's a time bomb. Blake Bortles is a modern-day Jay Cutler playing in a 2005 style Bears defense. And we'll see how far that takes them. Because honestly, it's the Jags, man. It's the Jags. They have a phenomenal defense, but they're not going to ever be Super Bowl winners. And that's the truth. It's just the God-honest truth. They don't have true receivers. They have receivers that can play the dink and dunk game really well, but it's only going to get them so far. And the Leonard Fournette injury will catch up to them because clearly there's something deeper going on there than just a hamstring, because he's missed plenty of time to recover from a hamstring and then immediately comes into the game and then gets hurt and then is out again. So there's not something right there with that boy at all. And he's already missed time, the injury during his rookie season. I don't trust it. I don't trust the Jags. I trust their defense, but I don't trust anything else about that team. And it's not going to end well, which shows up when they lose to the Titans and they beat the Patriots because I don't even know. But anyway, let's move on.
All right, next game, probably the game of the week here. Very, very weird game, definitely, but like I said, definitely game of the week contender this week. It is, of course, the Cleveland Browns. Oakland Raiders. Ultimately, Oakland wins in overtime. However, there were some controversy towards the end of the game. There was a fumble, not fumble, which still confuses me. that they called a non-fumble when Derek Carr clearly fumbled. Larry Ogunjobi picks up the ball. Looks like he's going to score. They call it back. And, of course, with the rules the way they are, is that it was unreplayable.
You can't replay or challenge a dead spot. Yeah.
Right. And then, you've got, and then I believe, I didn't see it again.
The Carlos Hyde run.
Carlos Hyde, I guess he get like a first down or something, but they called it.
Yeah.
They didn't call it a first down.
Yeah, they released a statement on that saying that you guys may see it one way, but we can literally look at it from every single angle that you're not going to see on television. And we decided that it was in fact short because you could clearly see that his wrist or something was down before the ball crossed the. They had excuses. I will start with this. I did say that Cleveland already won a game, and it was time for Oakland to win theirs, and the Oakland Raiders were going to win. Didn't say necessarily how they were going to, but it definitely was based off some questionable calls. But also, don't take away from the fact that Cleveland had that lead. They had a fairly big lead. They let it slip. They got a little big-headed, a little too quick for my liking for a team that hasn't won in years. And they made a lot of fucking mistakes on offense. Baker made a lot of mistakes in the second half of that game. He just wasn't making the same throws that he was making in the first half. He was just carelessly throwing picks when he had, he was challenging throws versus just dumping it off to his checkdowns. And it's in game situations when you have a lead, that's what you do. Like, I understand, like, all right, well, I want to keep scoring. Well, get the first down instead of the 50-yard bomb to the, corner of the end zone. Maybe you won't throw a pick. So disappointed in that. I think Baker needed to lose. Baker hasn't lost yet. The Browns have lost plenty. But Baker hasn't truly felt like he's lost.
Right.
And he needed that. And you watch him post-game, he's like, you could tell he was pissed and irritated and sad. But I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. I think you look at his stat line, had an okay game. Definitely rejuvenated this life in this offense, and this is definitely his team now. But again, 2 interceptions isn't going to cut it. 2 fumbles that were lost aren't going to cut it anymore. John, what do you take away from this game?
I think the loss definitely takes Baker Mayfield back down to reality after the big thirds in that game they had a couple weeks ago. He started off hot but didn't finish too crazy. Derek Carr actually had a really solid game. I mean, he did throw a couple picks, but he was still over 400 yards. Marshawn Lynch had a really solid game. But I think this is just a game moving forward where, the Raiders finally get their win. The Browns are back down to their reality where, they lose again. I don't think they're going to, lose again moving forward. But, I mean, it's pretty important for Baker Mayfield knowing that, you're not going to come into this league and, have a really, crazy outcome. But, the Raiders get back on moving forward. And it's just, I don't really have too much to say about this game other than, Oakland finally getting that win this season and Baker Mayfield being brought back down to reality, honestly.
Yeah. And again, Cleveland has some good things in terms of the players they've got. This is definitely a talented team. Baker needs to rein in the interceptions, but I think that will come with time. And this is definitely still a team that is a work in progress. We've talked about that before. Yeah, Oakland comes away with the win. Bronson, you got that correct. But Oakland's still going to be one of the worst teams in the league. when it's all said and done. I was talking with one of the guys from the NZI podcast about it, and I said it's like when you think they get the Oakland Raiders, they finally take 2 steps forward, they make the playoffs, they got their quarterback, they've got an all-pro defense, they've got all this stuff. All of a sudden, they put Gruden in charge. In 2 years since that playoff thing, since they made the playoffs, they've taken 6 steps back, and they're back to being the Oakland Raiders. And I'm not shocked. Again, this is definitely not a good team. And this wasn't a battle of good teams either. This was a battle of an okay team versus a terrible team, and the terrible team came out on top. So, moving on, probably the biggest headlining story this week we've got, not necessarily the game-wise, but what happened during the game, talking about it after the game, something we're going to talk about here. All of us picked the Seahawks to win. Seahawks do ultimately get the win, 20-17. Out of the rookie quarterbacks this year, this week I should say, Josh Rosen played the best. Not saying that he, did anything spectacular, but he played solid football game and led that offense. But the biggest story coming out of this game, of course, is Earl Thomas. Earl Thomas had held out all summer long, trying to get a new contract, tried to get traded to the Cowboys. And he tried, and then eventually he was basically going to lose about $500,000 per week. And he said, fuck that shit noise. So he came back, and then you saw for the past couple weeks, he just didn't practice. He just went around, he did his thing, and finally this game, he comes in, plays another solid game, and we actually have 2 big stories coming out of this game, but we'll talk about the first thing, which, like I said, is, of course, the Earl Thomas, and he ends up fracturing his leg. He is pretty much done for the season, and as he's being carted off, he gives a not-so-friendly gesture, the good old middle finger salute to his teammate's sideline. Bronson, I'll defer this to you because you've played football, you've been a part of that brotherhood. Do you think he was aiming it towards his fellow comrades who were saying, man, you got to come on this team, you got to play because you're a heart and soul, or do you think he was aiming it at the coaches and maybe even the front office because this is a guy who wanted a big-term deal and now he might not get it?
Yeah, this is a very easy dink-and-dunk answer. Anyone that knows Earl knows that wasn't intended for them. It was intended for the people that made the decision to not pay him. It's as simple as that. And he's always been someone to kind of speak his voice through action on the field. In terms of the gestures that he's done, he's always done it. He did it last week against the Cowboys, bowing at their sideline. It sucks that the Chiefs came out publicly and said that they were going to trade for him, but then the injury happened, and then outside of that, it just really sucks for Earl, and I don't blame him because now he's going to have to take a severe pay cut to be on a team.
Yeah.
And that sucks. But hey, and he's going to have to prove it again. And honestly, if he proves it again, he will get paid.
Now, there are reports that there are GMs out there and again, this is early in the season, early before the off season hits, but there are reports that there are GMs who are interested and say that this won't affect his value going forward.
I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't, but I also know that the safety market is bare, and if he wants to play for a winner, he's going to have to take a cut. If he wants just the money, then he can go take the money. And that will really say something about him. And honestly, if he's asking for Dallas to trade for him, he probably just is in it for the money.
Well, I don't necessarily believe it's that. As you know, and I know, and people should know, this is a boy from Orange, Texas. He went to the University of Texas. He is Texas, born and raised, and blood bleeds, that red, white, blue with the Lone Star out of his veins. So this is a Texas boy. So I don't necessarily think it's he's looking for a payday. I think he wants to go back home. But yeah, this is a guy who has probably been one of the best, if not the best safety in the last 5 years. Heart and soul of this defense. And, sad to see him get injured. Sad to see that, he was going to go, not necessarily to Dallas, but he was going to go to a contending team in Kansas City who desperately needs that safety. They're missing Eric Berry there. And, we wish him the best of luck. We wish him the best with that injury. John, the other big news coming out this week, again, from the Seahawks, is their recently signed middle linebacker that they signed from the Cleveland Browns who released him, Michael Kendricks, ends up getting released this week, because, of course, he's going to go to jail in December. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. He's not going to get a slap on the wrist. He is going to go to jail for 3 years, probably get off in a year and a half for good behavior. But this is a guy who a lot of people questioned the signing because they were saying, how long is he going to play for? Is he going to play until December when he gets, released, or is he going to play until the NFL suspends him? Ultimately, we see him get suspended. What are your thoughts on it?
He comes away with a few tackles. I still don't think this is really a game for Kendricks as is Earl Thomas. I feel like it's just really the big story coming out of this game. Here's a guy who this past offseason wanted, a change in pace, ends up with Seattle. This is the end of the Legion of Doom. He is really the last guy that's coming out of this defense. And, we all saw, he is very unhappy with the situation, gets hurt, flips off his sideline, mainly aimed at the upper office. And, they're 2-2 moving forward, but, this team just seems so broken at this point in the season, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a team that should have had 2 Super Bowls. Obviously, they didn't run it with Marshawn. They lost that Super Bowl. This is a team that should have been a dynasty, wasn't a dynasty. And I wouldn't be surprised more so if that middle finger wasn't aimed at Mr. I'm going to wait until I get married to have sex, Russell Wilson there. Because he allegedly, from all the reports that we've seen and from what we've heard, is that from even Seahawks players, was that he's Pete Carroll's boy, and Pete Carroll loves him to death, and he wanted to keep him around more than that defense, which that defense was the whole reason why they even made 2 Super Bowls in a row. So,
yeah.
But moving forward from that game, Cardinals again, terrible team. They're going to end up with the top 2 picks. Probably end up with number 1 overall, which I could see.
I don't see it.
I don't think this team's that good.
I don't think. I'd give them 6. They're gonna have the 6th overall pick.
I think they end up with the top 2, and that's fine, because ultimately you're either gonna end up with either Ed Oliver, or you're gonna end up with Nick Bosa, and I would rather walk away with Ed Oliver or Nick Bosa.
I'm gonna put Niners and the Bills there for the Cardinals. Man, Rosen is gonna show progress.
Yeah, I don't think this is a. Again, we can agree to disagree, but again, I don't see this as a good necessarily football team. And I knew that this was either going to be a veteran team that made one last gasp to the playoffs, or this was going to be a rebuild year entirely, and we're seeing the rebuild year instead. So, all right. Speaking of rebuild years, it's looking like that over in New York with the Giants. Saints ultimately come away with the victory, 33-18. Kamara has 3 second-half touchdowns, absolutely dominates on the ground. Eli has an okay game. Not too terribly of a game, but has an okay game. Barkley gets shut down. This game we really want to talk about. I mean, nothing really exciting out of this game, John, other than, I guess Alvin Kamara is the man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to touch too much on this game outside of what you just said. I mean, Kamara is definitely the man in New Orleans right now. Drew Brees doesn't have an incredible game, but Kamara just does work on the ground. I mean, he had 3 touchdowns. The Giants, I feel like they still have a few. They still have a little bit to go moving forward. I hate to see Eli, being the the falter of the Giants over the last couple seasons. But that's what it seems like what it is going forward. It really just is the Kamara show moving forward in New Orleans, and it's just really all it is, honestly.
Yeah, Bronson, you picked the Giants this week in an upset. You definitely believed in the Eli train. Obviously, it didn't happen. What went wrong for the Giants? Was it, or what went wrong what went right for the Saints? Was it more of that, or was it more?
It was more so the Saints playing defense better. I feel like Davenport finally showed up. So yeah, that's about all I'm gonna say on that.
Yeah, like I said, nothing game. It was okay, but all right. Next game we got in the docket. One that Bronson, you were texting us and you were like, "What the fuck is this game right now? How the fuck is this even possible?" It was the 49ers coming away with a loss, but early on, they went up 14-0, and this was like, holy shit, like, can they do it? Ultimately, they fall 27-29. But Bronson, were you sweating at all this game, or was it?
I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I was like, did the Chargers not watch any film on Beathard at all? Like Beathard or whatever the fuck you want to say his name. I was like, it just looked like they were like, oh well, like just completely clueless to him as a player. It felt weird. But then again, the Chargers are the fucking kings of underplaying to their opponents.
Yeah.
They always play shit against opponents that they should easily beat. I'm so sick. I love Phillip Rivers. Do not get me wrong. I think he's one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the NFL. But this fucking team pisses me off. Like, I want them gone. They bug me. They fucking bug me. Ever since they fired Marty Schottenheimer, the OG Schottenheimer, and lost LT and gutted the roster, let fucking Michael the Burner Turner go, that team has never been the same. They have never been to the playoffs in that form. They haven't done any of the things that they've ever done. They have settled for 8-8, 9-7 the last God knows how many years. They're like the team that just never gets into the playoffs, but could if the right thing happens. It's annoying. I'm over it. I don't see it changing anytime soon. Yeah, I'm done. Over it.
John, how do you feel about, and I will keep saying, until they actually move into the stadium with the Rams, they're the San Diego Chargers. So, the San Diego Chargers, the San Diego Chargers, the San Diego Chargers come away with the victory. How do you feel about this game? Any thoughts to pass along? Any ideas? Any like, God damn it, like, fuck you, Phillip Rivers, or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm right there with Bronson, honestly. I mean, it's like, this team, I mean, over the last handful of years, I mean, it's just like, what the hell are they doing? I mean, now they have, Melvin Gordon over the last few seasons. And I mean, he's been amazing, but I mean, it's like.
So amazing.
Yeah, but like outside of that, I mean, it's like, it's like they're almost there. They're almost there, and it's like we say
Dude,
that.
I don't
season in,
understand
season
it. I
out.
don't understand
Yeah.
it. You put Phillip Rivers on the Patriots or any other team with Melvin Gordon and Keenan Allen. That's a playoff team every fucking year on offense.
Exactly.
It doesn't make
yeah.
any fucking sense.
Exactly.
I
And it's
don't
like, oh,
understand it, dude. I hate talking about the Chargers because it pisses me off because it doesn't make any sense. Every year I'm just like literally fucking scratching my head like a fucking monkey. Like what? Like how? Like how? You play in the AFC West, like you're either competing against the Broncos, not anymore, or the Chiefs. Like how the fuck are you not a wild card team? You've had Phillip Rivers for 20 years, it feels like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and what's the show of it? It's crazy.
And I feel bad. I feel bad for Philip Rivers and his 8 children because it just feels like he is the bride at the altar that's just waiting for that groom to hey,
dude,
come marry me.
Guys, you brought up his family. Let me talk about this real quick. I'm gonna sound like a grade A dick and like a love hater here, but I feel like Phillip Rivers is the only player in the NFL that is probably genuinely in love. Okay? Now, you guys are like, what? You're making faces, your eyebrows are like doing weird things. Look her up. Look her up. He is a NFL quarterback for the San Diego, now LA Chargers, okay? He is a quarterback in the NFL, okay? And he dates a woman and has been married to a woman that doesn't make sense that is married to a NFL quarterback. When you think married to NFL quarterback, you're like supermodel, Jessica Simpson, Tom Brady's wife, stripper, yada, any number of things, right? That's where your mind goes. NFL quarterback, hundreds of millions of dollars, stripper. No. You look at his wife and you're like, oh my God, he met her in middle school and it's like never left. Like that's you look at her and they look happy as fuck. And I think Phillip was like, yo, like I'm gonna come in here. I mean, I'm gonna do my job. Like whatever else happens, like I'm passionate as fuck. Like I'm like poor man Tom Brady. Like I'm the West Coast Tom Brady. You know, we chill out here in Cali. Like I'm just gonna, I'm gonna yell a lot. I'm gonna yeehaw a couple times, but man, I'm gonna love the fuck out of my wife, and she's gonna love the fuck out of me tonight. And I'm probably gonna have a 9th kid tonight. So there's that. Like you have 5 Super Bowl rings. I got 9 kids.
Who's the real Super Bowl here?
I don't know, but I don't know. Like I almost want to I watch him on the field. I'm like, dude, he loves football. He loves the game. But I also feel like he loves his life. Like he's got more in life than just football, and it's clearly his family. When I look at pictures of his family, dude, when I look at his family, I'm like, that I've never seen something so genuine is pretty much what I'm getting at. Like he looks like an actual family man. Like it's like I don't know how to describe it. Well, you look at anything else in the NFL and it does not match to what Phillip Rivers does.
Right. And he's from Alabama. He's a nice good old Christian boy. And like what you said, he's been with the same girl, his same wife, since he was in the 7th grade. I mean, that's impressive. You want to talk about longevity, you want to talk about commitment in this day and age. I mean, that's the same girl since the 7th grade. And he even moved to a different school that was even further, and he still dated her. And yeah, I mean, this is a guy who, when it's all said and done, he's going to be that other San Diego quarterback like Dan Fouts, where he put up the statistics, he put up the numbers, Hall of Fame quarterback, just like I said, bridesmaid at the altar waiting for her turn. So, and yeah, it's definitely a confusing time in the Chargers. But speaking about other things that piss off Bronson Pompilio, which is the next game, is the Ravens come away with the win against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And,
damn right.
And John was the only one who selected this game correctly. He picked the Ravens. He said, nope, Baltimore shows up in these games as long as you shut down Antonio Brown, which they didn't shut him down too much. Thank God, because he helped me win my other fantasy league. I'm 4-0 in that, and I got $400 riding in that league. So trying to win that shit, trying to get that money. Yeah. But
all right, can I take the lead on this one?
Yeah, Bronson's squitching his hands. He's getting lube ready. He's about to stroke his own dick. Let's go, Bronson. You're
all right. Yeah, I love talking Ravens football. I mean, it's just so ridiculous.
So neutral zone.
All right. Yeah, ex neutral zone. I guess it's more like a PI, if you ask me. But because let's just run it through the weeks, okay? They played Buffalo at home. They won. You beat Buffalo. Congrats. A lot of teams have, and Cincinnati you lost to. Makes sense. They're a better team. You beat Denver. I also think Denver's bad. Like I said, you'll pick after them in the draft. Pittsburgh team, really good, really good team. Far better than your Ravens that are just superbly underperforming for God knows what fucking reason. And it's mostly due to the fact that Mike Tomlin does not take responsibility for the team at all. He's like, oh, well, I talked to a player, and I talked to Le'Veon. I mean, he's a douchebag, but it's okay. Antonio, he can say whatever he wants about me, but it's okay. So he has no control over this team. Pittsburgh is completely confused and in disarray. They played it. They beat Denver. Or no, they didn't play fucking Denver, but Pittsburgh won last week against Fitzpatrick. But, I mean, we all knew that was going to happen. It was just a matter of time when Fitzpatrick would slowly run out. And, I mean, fuck, they almost lost. I mean, Fitz scored almost fucking 30 points in the second half to take the fucking win. So when I look at the Ravens, I'm like, all right, I'm looking at your schedule, and it's not getting any easier. It's only getting worse from here. You got Cleveland next, okay? You got Baker after a loss. He's pissed, okay? He's pissed. And guess what? You're playing in Cleveland. You got Tennessee next, the AFC South sleeper, okay? The AFC sleeper. Then you got New Orleans. Then you got Carolina. Then you got Pittsburgh again when they beat you, okay? This time you're at home. And then you got your bye. So I'm looking at this schedule here, and I'm like, all right, yeah, you're going to go in the bye like 3-4, 4-4 if you're lucky. Like, I mean, this isn't getting any better, all right? I'm sorry. Don't get me wrong. I keep saying this, and I will continue saying this, that the Ravens, it's just a matter of time. It's a front. It's a show. It's like it's this team is not intended to last. It's a temporary solution. I'm sorry, John. I know, but I'm just preparing you for the future. I'm being a good friend, okay? That's all I'm saying. This is what I'm getting at is one of these days you're going to wake up and you're going to be like, what happened? And you're going to be like, oh my God, Bronson told me everything before it happened, so I'm okay. I've coped. But here's what's literally Jimmy Smith coming back to the team is only going to cause the team more hurt. Okay? First of all, yeah, he's your better player on the corners, but it's only going to cause confusion on the defense. It's going to throw the level off. Right now, you guys have a cohesive defense right now. You bring Jimmy Smith, his ego, his play style, his penalties, his injury proneness, it only throws off the groove of everyone else in the defense. Okay? And chances are he's probably not going to last the season, or he'll end up getting suspended again. But whatever. What do I know? And then there's Joe Flacco. You're going up against 3 very good defenses here over the course of the next 4 weeks. And Flacco hasn't been playing that well due to injury. And you drafted a first-round quarterback, my friend. You're destined for failure. Okay? No team in the NFL drafts a quarterback in the first round and gets away with not playing them and starting them in the first year of their season. Granted, I would say Patrick Mahomes. You can say Patrick Mahomes sat an entire year. Granted, he did play the last game of the season for the Chiefs, so he technically did start a game in the first year of his season. But the last time before Patrick Mahomes that a quarterback sat after being in the first round of the draft, sat on a bench for 16 weeks and just didn't do anything was a guy by the name of Aaron Rodgers. Okay? It doesn't happen. It won't happen. The chances of you getting Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson are very slim. The chances of that happening are 1 in a million. The Chiefs got lucky. I would have told you before last year's draft that I wanted Patrick Mahomes. He was my number 1 quarterback target. But instead, my Bears pissed me off and went with Trubisky, and I had to suddenly become a believer. Anyway, that's not the point. My point is,
and all.
right, and the helmet. And but anyway, my point is this is going to catch up to you, and it's going to catch up to the Ravens. You guys have had a favorable schedule, and you caught the Steelers at a moment. It's not like I would have said, all right, believe in your team if, in fact, they played a good Steelers team, okay? Like, that's something to get excited about. The Steelers aren't playing good football, so you're telling me all of your wins have come against teams that are playing bad football, and your one loss is against the one team that is playing well this year. That is concerning. And now you're going up against 4 good teams over the course of the next 4 weeks. You should be concerned, my friend. Yes, I pick the Ravens to lose every week, but it's only a matter of time before I'm right every week. Bet on it.
All right, well, John, after that, Jesus Christ, it's like every week I have to title an episode when Bronson goes wild against the Ravens. Like,
well, you know what? Don't ask me to do a podcast if you don't want my opinion, sir.
Just Jesus Christ, tone down the Ravens hate.
Well, dude, I live in fucking Baltimore. What do you want from me?
Kind of comes with the territory.
Like, John, you're in Moco. Okay, I'm literally in fucking Baltimore. I live it. I'm around it. I go to work and I look at it. I have fucking Ravens cupcakes at my job, man. I'm fueled with hatred every day. Okay, with all these asinine fans that are just like, oh my god, we're fucking 3-1, man. We beat the Steelers. I'm like, yeah, you beat the Steelers. Yeah. Tell Ryan Shazier about it. Like, get out of my face, man. I'm sorry. And I saw your post, John, about Jimmy Smith's coming back. We're only going to get better. I almost commented and told you to, like, go to the bathroom.
Speaking of bathroom, before John gives his opinion, so he texted me, and we were talking last week when we were playing Rocket League, and I found out that I guess during one of the segments we had in the last couple of weeks that while you were talking, he was like, man, I gotta go take a shit. He went to the bathroom and took a shit. So
had to, man.
That's okay. I take like 4 pisses when we're talking, and I mute myself. So I'm just as guilty. But anyway, let's move on.
All right, John. Big win for your Ravens this week. Obviously, you're super happy, super pumped. I'll let you talk about that, and then we'll talk about the Le'Veon stuff as well.
It's always a big one when you go into Pittsburgh and get the big dub. I am more interested to see how this team does against more competitive teams. Pittsburgh will be better later on this year, depending on how Lev Bell comes back after their bye week. Flacco is the most healthy that he has been since the Super Bowl year. And it's early in the season. He is on pace for 5,000 yards, which is crazy to say. The only big question mark I have on this team right now is the run game. I mean, Alex Collins came off a big year last season, almost rushed for 1,000 yards. He's only averaging 3.5 yards per carry. The receiving core is a really big improvement from the last few years since we had Steve Smith. But other than that, they are doing really solid. The defense, though, number 1 in the NFL. I know they've only gone against the Bills in Cincinnati, in Pittsburgh. They have shut them out in the second half. No second half touchdown, so that is really big moving forward. Don't think that's going to obviously stand moving forward as we get along with the season. will be interesting to see. The red zone offense did go. They improved one more drive, 13 out of 13 in the red zone, and then I think they finished off with like 13 out of 15 in that game. This is a really good Ravens team moving forward. I don't think they are one of the worst teams in the NFL, though. But I am more interested in seeing how they do moving forward, playing against better teams. I'm not going to say they are, one of the most teams to beat. I have seen a lot of videos in ESPN and NFL.com with them picking the Ravens being the most complete team in the AFC right now. They have had some pretty simple matchups. It was, I will say, really nice to see. The defense really did a good job without Jimmy Smith against Antonio Brown in that game. That was pretty nice to see. Usually Jimmy Smith is the only corner they can see on the Ravens, at least shutting down Antonio Brown. So seeing that was pretty nice. But I am more interested in seeing how they do against better teams as the season goes on. I will not say that this is one of the most complete teams in the AFC just yet because the season is still young. Being a Ravens fan, I am pretty excited to see a healthy Joe Flacco and a very stout defense. So if they can keep that going, it will be interesting to see. If Joe Flacco does make mistakes as the season goes forward, don't be surprised seeing Lamar Jackson taking the field. I mean, like I said last week, you take a quarterback in the first round. Joe Flacco was picked in the first round in his draft, and he started right away. And all the other quarterbacks in the first round that were picked in the first round, they have started at this point. This really comes down to the Joe Flacco and the John Harbaugh show. If Joe Flacco starts to struggle as the season moves forward, start seeing more plays where if Jackson comes in and, it's really predictable at this point. Jackson comes in, okay, he's going to run the ball. But if Flacco struggles, start seeing Jackson coming in and start throwing the ball. And if that starts showing some progression in these games, I feel like it's only a matter of time. But as long as Flacco stays hot, this is still his team. And, it is only a matter of time before Jackson takes his team over. But until Flacco starts to flop, this is just a team that we see, honestly.
Yeah. Well, and obviously the other news that came out of this game had nothing to do with the game, but what was come out afterwards was that we are getting a Le'Veon Bell sighting week 7. We won't talk about it too much just because we'll talk about when he actually hits the field, but his target return date is week 7 when the Steelers hit their bye week. Just real quick, John, do you see Le'Veon in the Steelers uniform, or do you see him in a different uniform?
Well, the last couple of weeks we've seen the rumors coming forward with them trying to trade him around. It's been a pretty interesting headline, but I think at this point, it's almost like, okay, I think the Steelers are in trouble. I think they need Le'Veon in that offense, and, it'll be interesting to see, but I think they're in desperation mode right now, and they just need Lev Bell in that offense to get that spark going.
Right. Bronson, real quick, Le'Veon Bell, is he ultimately going to be Steeler uniform, or is he going to be, in a different uniform in that trade?
Le'Veon Bell is the least of their worries right now. Granted, James Conner hasn't played well the last couple weeks, but Le'Veon is not the issue on the team, and they know that, and that is why they're going to trade him. That defense is completely and utterly just underperforming. They're not playing well at all. That defense played. They were a top 10 defense last year, and now they're playing in the top 25, and that was without Ryan Shazier last year. They did that, and no, he's gonna get traded. It's as simple as that. Just playing terrible defense. They gotta right the ship there. It's before they win games.
Yeah, I think I think that's why he gave him the Week 7 ultimatum. That gives the Steelers a couple weeks to sort out what type of team they're going to be. If you see them going on a run and they start winning and they start, if they go into the bye week where they're, in contention for a playoff spot, then I definitely see them keeping Le'Veon. If they're looking like they're struggling, if they win, like let's say they lose the next 2 games, then you could see definitely Le'Veon being traded, gather up some picks, and definitely see what they can get for him. So, and final game we're going to talk about this week for the Week 4 picks is a very fun, very, very fun. That's all I can talk about. It was a very fun game between the Chiefs and the Broncos. Ultimately, the Chiefs come away with a comeback victory. Pat Mahomes leads them to 2 straight touchdown drives when it just seemed all was lost. And before we talk about this game, one of the nicknames they were throwing around, they were saying, "Oh yeah, it's Showtime Mahomes, Showtime Mahomes." Listen, I'm all for giving players nicknames. I'm all for players, whatever. But no, it just doesn't ring. It doesn't sound good. Just stop with the Showtime Mahomes, okay? It's never going to be a thing. Since it's October, technically it was October 3rd when we started this podcast. It's never going to be a thing, okay? We wear pink on Wednesdays. And so, but ultimately, it was a very entertaining game. Kansas City Chiefs come away with the victory. Who were you more impressed with, Bronson? Or what I should say, what were you more impressed with when it comes to Pat Mahomes? Were you impressed with his poise in the fourth quarter, or was it just his ability to just make plays out of nothing?
Both, because I feel like the plays out of nothing come from when he's in the fourth quarter, when the game's against his back. He is definitely playing lights out. He's playing very fucking well. Very fucking well. And you read articles, you listen to podcasts, you watch videos, you hear what everyone's saying, and the one thing they're saying is they're comparing it to when Peyton Manning was running the Broncos defense, offense, thank you. Sorry, getting sleepy. It's 1 a.m. But they're drawing comparisons to that, and when Brady did all those ungodly things with Randy Moss, and then they're like, "Oh my God, it's a Super Bowl team," but there's so much doubt in me. It's hard for a quarterback to come into this league, and especially their first year, and sustain that. Something's gonna happen, man. Something's gonna happen. Something's gonna give. Something's gonna break.
Well, you remember last year too. We were talking about how when even after they drafted Mahomes, and then all of a sudden Kansas City, like last year again, they have Alex Smith start off to this rocket start, and you're like, holy shit, Alex Smith can throw a football. Like what? Like I thought he could only check it down to his running backs. No, he was torching defenses left and right for that first quarter of the season, and then he slowed down towards the middle of the season. So do you see a fall like that, or do you think or do you think it'll be that drastically of a fall to where that offense will suffer? Or do you think it's just he's going to come back to earth?
I think defenses, once they start playing better defenses, like granted the Broncos defense was the first good defense that they played up against, and it gave him fits, and clearly it gave him fits because he had the drive to win against them. But you will start to see after a while no quarterback can sustain what Patrick Mahomes is currently doing. It is not possible. All right, it's not allowed. It goes against everything football. There's going to be a moment where it breaks and it falters, and God forbid if that moment comes in the playoffs, because then it's just going to seem all for nothing. And that'll be a big learning experience for them. And, Andy Reid is kind of like fucked and cursed in a sense when it comes to that. The man can never get to the Super Bowl and win it. Does he do it with Patrick Mahomes? Maybe. Does he do it this year? Probably not. Could he? Yes. Does he deserve a Super Bowl? Absolutely. Any Eagles fan will tell you that they should have won the Super Bowl back when Donovan McNabb was their quarterback. But that's besides the point. I do think the Chiefs will regress. It's just a matter of when and at what point they hit the wall during the season.
Absolutely, and I think you see their defense, and we've talked about, I think, a little bit about their defense, but their defense hasn't done anything that excites me.
No, it's bad.
And their defense isn't that good. It's maybe average, if not below average. They're not that good. They'll get sacks, but they won't. Casey Keenum, he made some pretty good throws, and really, you saw a throw at the end there that should have won the game. Now, looking back on it, I watched the play a couple times. The throw was on the money. Demaryius Thomas was just too late on his break. If Demaryius Thomas was Demaryius Thomas of, I'd even say 3 years ago, not his old self, but 3 years ago, Demaryius Thomas, that's a touchdown. Broncos win. End of story. But it's a tough loss for the Broncos to swallow. John, I don't know how much game of this you watched, but what if ultimately out of this game, if the Broncos win this game, right? What do you think is the more standout play? And when I say standout play, if you have Mahomes who's scrambling to his left, and not a lot of everybody likes to throw out the F word. By the F word, I mean Favre. Everybody likes to throw out that Favre comparison. It's just like, hey, this is Brett Favre. Oh my God, this is Brett Favre. Anytime there's a big arm quarterback, they always throw out the Brett Favre. The name, the F word, as I like to call it. But it was very Favre-esque. It was very, he's improvising. He's like, fuck it, I'm just going to throw it with my left hand. And I was more impressed by Tyreek Hill catching that ball, because that ball did not come out clean, did not have any spiral to it, and he caught it and ran it for a first down. Would you have been more impressed by that play, or if Cortland Sutherland would have caught it and successfully hook and lateraled it to Emmanuel Sanders, and that leads him either to a first down or a touchdown?
I mean, that play was pretty impressive where Mahomes was just like, fuck it, I'm just going to throw it with my left hand. Big loss for the Broncos. I mean, there's only so much that they can do on defense. Their offense isn't really anything too spectacular. They still have Emmanuel Sanders and they still have Demaryius Thomas. I mean, both very talented wide receivers, given their credit. But, it's like, Case Keenum, he's just not really that quarterback. He had a great season last year with Minnesota, but he's just not really that quarterback moving forward. Mahomes, I feel like, as the season progresses, he will regress. They should come away with that division win. If not, definitely a wild card. And also Kareem Hunt. He has another solid game. He had a really great game, over 100 yards on the ground. But I don't know, man. It's Broncos team. If they had a really great offense, they would be the team to beat in that division, to be honest. But their offense really isn't anything to really go crazy about without a solid quarterback. I like Case Keenum. He's an okay quarterback, but he's just not the guy to get the job done, and especially when you have the kind of receivers that you do on that offense. It's just not going to get it done.
Right. And here's what I'll say about the Broncos and about Case Keenum. I love Case Keenum. I've always liked him, even back to when he was a draft prospect, and I said that this is a guy who should be a mid-round pick. Ultimately goes undrafted, but I said this is a guy who's going to start. After a couple people told me that he was never going to start a game, he's probably going to be a CFL quarterback, maybe low tier like camp arm, whatever. I said this is a guy who's going to start some games and win some games. Not necessarily, win the big one, but I said this is a guy who has enough talent in his arm to make some impressive throws. Now, my caveat to that is this. I love Case Keenum. He is not the best quarterback on that team. The best quarterback on that team is their backup quarterback, or should be backup quarterback, and that's Chad Kelly. Chad Kelly is a fantastic, he should have been a third round, maybe second round draft pick. It's just with the off the field issues, with the torn ACL, with the elbow issues, he obviously fell until he became Mr. Irrelevant. Chad Kelly starts on this team and plays on this team. This team plays a lot better. I'm not saying that they make the playoffs, but this team maybe starts 3-1, maybe starts 4-0. I think ultimately, though, this is a team that's going to finish 6-10, maybe 7-9. But this is definitely a team that has a quarterback on its roster that maybe they haven't put enough. Faith in, but I strongly believe Chad Kelly is the quarterback of the future. And my other point to this game, too, is here's the most interesting stat brought to you by Jeff Schwartz. His brother, Mitchell Schwartz, is the right tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs, right? Who plays on the Denver Broncos, who goes up against him all the time? Von Miller. Guess what Von Miller hasn't done in 4 games against the Chiefs with Mitchell Schwartz starting? He has yet to sack the quarterback against Mitchell Schwartz. That's impressive. And Von Miller's top 5 pass rusher in this league. But Mitchell Schwartz, I guess, is his kryptonite. Because, man, 4 straight games where he is not allowed a sack against Von Miller. So, all right. We have reached the end of the podcast, which, of course, we're going to talk about our picks for week 5. We've already made our Thursday night picks. I'll go over those briefly, which is, of course, I picked the Patriots. Yes, the Patriots of New England. Same thing with John. He picked the Patriots, whereas Bronson picked the Colts. This past week, for week 4 of our picks, we had a very close week again, where we were all pretty much neck and neck. Bronson 8-8 for week 3. Week 4, he was 9-6. John pulled some. He was terrible in the early games, but those late games really helped him out. 8-7, and ultimately I come away with the Picker's crown this week, where I was 10-5. So, and again, remember, we are not only just picking for fun, but we are picking for pride, and we are picking for a $50 restaurant gift card. Because, man, I love me some steak. You myself some Longhorn Steakhouse. You get myself a nice New York strip. Get it medium rare with a nice little fat cap on it. So, that being said, like I said, we're going to go on to the Thursday night week, or not Thursday night week 5, but we're going to go on to the regular week 5 picks. Bronson, you're up first. It's going to be the Tennessee Titans going to Buffalo against that Bills Mafia. Who you got?
Tennessee. Move on.
Yeah, I mean this is a no-brainer. I mean this is one of those games where you could sleep on Buffalo and Buffalo, comes away with the victory. However, I don't think that's the case. Again, I don't think Buffalo's that good of a team. Gonna go with the Tennessee Titans. John?
Yeah, I'm right there with you guys. I mean, Buffalo, they're back at home, but I think they're right back down to reality. So, let's move forward. It's Titans all the way.
Absolutely. Second game this week, John, you've got first. You got the Miami Dolphins going into Cincinnati at, was that Paul Brown Stadium, or is that Three Rivers Stadium, or
Paul Brown Stadium, yeah.
Paul Brown Stadium, there we go. Which is weird because he's also the name of the Cleveland Browns. It's all weird. So, John, you've got the first pick. Who you got between the Dolphins and the Bengals?
The Dolphins are coming off a really big shellacking loss against against the Patriots, but the Bengals are a really solid team. They're at home, and I gotta go with the Bengals on this one.
All right, Bronson.
I'm gonna take the Bengals.
Any reason why, or just Bengals because you're feeling it? And because you're tired?
I feel the Bengals every week, man. Dolphins did get their asses whooped, but I do want to go with the Bengals. I could see the fucking Miami Dolphins ruining my week for me by winning, but I'm gonna go with the Bengals.
This is one of those games where the Bengals should win. They have the momentum, they have the team, they have the everything. I'm gonna go with the Dolphins, though. I think this is going to be a close game. I think you could see it 24-21, but I think Miami's going to come back, and they're going to lay waste against that Cincinnati secondary that's been okay this year, but nothing spectacular, and definitely get Kenyon Drake a little bit more involved in the game. So that's the key right there. Is they have to focus on the run game, and they weren't able to do so this past week. So next game we got on the docket is the Ravens going to the Browns at whatever the fuck the Browns. We're going to call it the beer cooler stadium because
First
they had those
Energy Stadium.
First Energy Stadium. Fuck that. We're going to call it the beer cooler because they had
Unlock
those cool ass. Yeah, unlock those coolers, baby. Woo. I'm going to go though. This is another toss-up game. I'm going to go with the Ravens. I know after Bronson's talked all the shit, I don't think Cleveland's going to win this game. I think it'll be close again, but I think Baker Mayfield's going to throw up a late interception. You said Jimmy Smith is healthy this week?
Yes, sir.
Jimmy Smith is healthy this week. I think he does well against Jarvis Landry, and as long as they can keep Antonio Higgins, I think that's the key right there. If they can keep Antonio Higgins caged up, I think, like I said, the Ravens win. John?
Antonio Callaway.
Whatever. I'm tired too.
This is always a trap game for the Ravens. Cleveland always plays the Ravens hard. But getting Jimmy Smith back and having the first overall pick, Hayden Hurst, potentially making his first NFL start this weekend, gotta go with my Ravens, baby.
And Bronson, am I putting you down for the Browns? Are you down with the Brown?
Like I said, Jimmy Smith is coming back, and it's going to cause problems for the Ravens because he's not going to be ready for Jarvis. And I will give the Browns the victory by 3. Dude, I am not.
The boy.
I'm going to keep picking just about anyone against the Ravens. Yeah,
I love it.
Well, it's funny because you were talking about after the podcast, like after I think the first podcast, you're like, John, you can't pick the Ravens every week. That's bullshit. Meanwhile, you're picking against the Ravens every week, so
it's endless war. I love it.
All right, Bronson, you're gonna go up first on this one. It's an NFC North showdown between the Green Bay Packers going into Detroit to place against the Detroit Lions. I know you just love picking these NFC North matchups. So,
where's it at?
It is at Detroit.
Fuck. Lions are playing so good on defense right now. They're not getting enough credit. They beat the Patriots when no one thought they could. I really, really, really just need to take Yeah, I'm going to take the Lions. Darius Slay can match up against any of their wide receivers. Their linebackers are playing lights out in Detroit. It's at Detroit. Patricia again pulls off a big upset to like get his team believing.
Yeah, again, I have to agree with you, and it's like I think I picked the Lions 3 weeks in a row to win a game. Or no, we picked New England for the first game, so never mind. But we picked the Lions last week. They lost a heartbreaker, but they're at home this week, and I think that they're going to put some punishment on to Tom Brady, or not Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, I should say. Yeah, Darius Slay, big play Slay, there in the defensive wonderland over there in Detroit. Definitely maybe comes up with a couple picks. John?
Well, I'm going to have to go against you guys. I can't see this being a pretty close game.
Shocker.
But Aaron Rodgers is 13-3 against the Lions, so I'm going to go with the Packers over the Lions, baby.
Ooh, throwing out those stats, I like it. Makes me rock solid. So, Jaguars, Chiefs. Jaguars going into Chiefs against possibly a AFC championship matchup here, or at least the AFC playoff matchup here. John, who you got? Jaguars, like I said, going into Arrowhead Stadium against the Chiefs.
It's an Arrowhead, and Jaguars aren't terrible. Without Fournette, I don't think they are great. I'm gonna have to go with the Chiefs, man. I don't know.
Definitely a toss-up game. Bronson, who you got?
When do I get to pick last? I feel like I never get to pick last.
You get to pick last next.
Yeah, it's always when it's convenient for you. Quarter of the season's over. Sammy Watkins is a little iffy. Tyreek Hill is a fucking beast, but gets to go against Jalen, who's just, drooling at the mouth. Dude, I'm going to take the Jags. This is the type of game that Blake Bortles plays well at. I'm going to take the Jags by, like, less than 10.
Yeah. Again, this is definitely a toss-up game, but this is going to be, I think, even a tougher defense than what Mahomes just had to do in Denver. I think this is definitely the game where Mahomes throws his first interception. I don't think he has a particularly good game, and again, their defense is not that good. And this is definitely one of those games where I think the stronger team, which I am going to say the Jaguars are going to win this game. It's going to be close, but yeah, I think ultimately you're going to see, I'll say Jaguars 20, Kansas City 10. So it's definitely going to be a low-scoring defensive game for the Jaguars. So just right up their alley. So next game I've got, it's going to be the Denver Broncos going into MetLife Stadium, going up against the New York Jets. Jets. The Jets are awful. Todd Bowles is probably going to get fired in the next couple weeks. I mean, we can put that in the bank. Broncos come back, win this game. Easy. John?
I think Von Miller is going to be all over Sam Darnold in this game. I got Broncos, baby.
Broncos, baby. Bronson, go ahead.
Oh, fuck. I really want to go. Yeah, Broncos. I could see this being the game though that proves how bad the Broncos are though, and see the Jets win.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But I
just
think,
they did to Detroit. So.
But I could also see this being the game where Casey Keenum throws 4 touchdowns, and like I said, the Jets look confused and awful, and they ultimately fire Todd Bowles after this game. So, and I like Todd Bowles as a defensive coordinator, but
yeah, you really don't seem like it. You talk about Todd Bowles like I talk about the Ravens. Him and Bill O'Brien. I
Listen,
don't think Bowles is going to get fired this year, man. I don't think he's going to get fired during the season.
I think he will. Because they were down in this past week before they got blown out. They were down by, I think it was 10. They talked about it in one of the podcasts I listened to. They were down by 10. It was like a 4th and 8 situation with, whatever time left to go, and they punt the ball in the fourth quarter. Like 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter, you punt the ball. It's like, no, you go for that shit. At the very least, you put your offense out there. You gotta have faith in your offense. You're close to putting in some points and getting some momentum. They go out there, they do that. That's not putting much faith in your rookie quarterback. That's not putting much faith in your team in a sense. And yeah, I don't think Todd Bowles is a good head coach. I think he's a great defensive coordinator. The fact that defense is doing well this year with Leonard Williams, like I said, Jamal Adams, and definitely no pass rushing pieces. They have a strong defense, and you see that in the coaching, but I don't think this is the coach to lead this team to a playoff appearance, let alone a playoff victory. I think this is a head coach who is better served as a defensive coordinator. So, anyways, those are my 2 cents on Todd Bowles. Bronson, you got the next pick on this game. It is the Atlanta Falcons, the Dirty Birds, going into Ketchup Field, Heinz Field, going up against the Steelers. Who you got? Another one of those coin flip trap games. Both teams need a win.
You know what, John? I want you to make notes. Every time it's a really hard game, I have to pick first. I always pick first.
Yeah.
Who picked on the Oakland Browns game first? Me. All right. You let the record reflect. All right. So if you boys want an easy win, follow suit. All right. I'm picking the Falcons. The Falcons are gonna win. This will be their first win.
Second win.
Second win. First win in a while.
Yeah.
It seems like forever, but yeah, I got the Falcons winning.
All right. I'm next. I nothing about the Steelers team.
Hold on, John.
Yeah.
I could almost see Mike Tomlin getting fired before Todd Bowles.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Bold. I like it.
I don't see it, but okay.
There's too much drama, man. Too much drama. There's too much shit going on there.
Yeah,
straight up pandemonium. They're gonna trade Le'Veon, and it's only gonna get worse. And then someone's getting gone, and then an interim coach is gonna be in there in time for the Ravens game. If you're gonna fire any coach before Todd Bowles, it's got to be Mike Tomlin or John Harbaugh. But whatever. What do I know?
Obviously not that much. This team does definitely. This is an old defense. They definitely lost their heart and soul with Ryan Shazier with his injury. And you definitely saw that with the playoffs last year and everything like that. I think Matt Ryan's going to throw against over Joe Hayden. And I think Julio, you're going to see get a couple touchdowns. If not Calvin Ridley, one of the two. There's going to be 2 touchdowns between either Julio or Calvin. But yeah, Falcons win this. John?
There is definitely so much going on with the Steelers team. I mean, I've seen so much, along with, ESPN, NFL.com, with them early on picking the Steelers being early favorites. It says here Steelers are 9-1-1 in the last 11 games against the Falcons, but I am definitely going to have to go against the grain. There's just way too much distraction going on in Pittsburgh right now. So let's go Falcons.
All right. Well, John, lucky thing you're not going too far away. Because you're up first again. You've got the New York Giants going into Bank of America Stadium. Good bank right there. I like them as well. Going up against the Carolina Panthers. John, who do you got?
Well, we all know that Bronson's favorite player in the league is Cam Newton. So, saying that, I mean, I don't know. The Giants, like I was just talking about before, I mean, there's just so much going on. I mean, yeah, they got Saquon Barkley. He's doing amazing things over there. But I'm going to have to go with the Panthers on this one, man.
All right, Bronson.
Fuck. First of all, you're done for thinking Todd Bowles is going to get fired before the season's over, but whatever. No, Panthers win, sadly.
Whatever. All right, and yeah, I think Julius Peppers is going to turn back the clock against this terrible offensive line in the New York Giants.
Of all the names you dropped, it's Julius Peppers.
Yeah, I mean, he's been quiet this year, and I like I said, I think he's going to dominate against this awful offensive line. It's pretty much a coin flip between, like a three-sided coin flip between the Buffalo Bills, Houston Texans, and the New York Giants, and who has the worst offensive line. So you can pretty much put them at 1 and then shuffle them between 1A, 1B, 1C. So, but yeah, I think Panthers ultimately win this. I'm going to laugh if Eric Reed gets an interception and then, I don't know, does something and shits on, like, the NFL or something. I don't know. Like, just make it happen. It's hilarious to me. So, all right. This week, next game upcoming, I'm up first. It's going to be the Oakland Raiders. The Oakland Raiders against the San Diego, refuse to call them Los Angeles Chargers. This is a game that the Raiders are coming into a big week out of Derek Carr. They should have all the momentum in the world. They still fucking suck. Going with the Chargers. John?
It's not really an exciting game to think about. I mean, you got the future Vegas Raiders against the LA Chargers. Not really too big on saying both of those names, but I don't know, man. I just feel like the Raiders are going to keep it going. I think the Raiders are going to come out with this one.
And you're picking the Raiders?
Yes, sir.
Ooh, that's a bold prediction. That's a bold ass prediction.
Bold for the Raiders.
Bronson?
Yeah, Chargers.
This and to the caveat is that this is definitely one of those games where, Bronson, you went on a fucking rant about. It's one of those games where the Chargers should win, and yet I could see them losing. Like that's how wishy-washy the Chargers have always been, no matter who the head coach is. So, yeah, I agree, though. I think the Chargers come out with a win. Bronson, you're up first. In the battle of the NFC Championship game of last year, got the Minnesota Vikings heading into Lincoln Financial Field, playing on those Super Bowl champion, I hate saying that, God, that's awful, Philadelphia Eagles. Who you got?
Eagles. Yeah.
Any reason why?
You can't lose to Tennessee and not be pissed about it. That pass rush on Philly is too good up against that terrible offensive line of Minnesota, and Kirk Cousins does not know how to handle pressure constantly like that, which is why he's got so many fucking fumbles on the season. So yeah, Eagles.
This is a very long week for the Vikings, which is what they needed to right the ship, I think. However, Carson Wentz looks strong in his second game back from his ACL tear. If that's any indication, and with the way that the Vikings defense is playing, yeah, I've got the Eagles this week. John?
I think the Eagles come back after a very big overtime disappointing loss against the Titans. They're at home, Lincoln Financial Field. Vikings, I think they're just going to keep struggling moving forward after starting the season off very hot, off very, everyone's hands. They thought the Vikings were going to be very strong this season, but I think the Eagles are going to come away with a big win on this one, baby.
All right, so we all picked the Eagles. Well, John, you go up first, and this is a, as I like to call the Factory of Sadness game. the Factory of Sadness. It is the Arizona Cardinals going into San Francisco playing against a Jimmy G. Less, CJ Beathard-led 49ers team. Do you have a winner? Is there even a winner, even if somebody wins this game?
I don't know. I'm definitely not a winner. Didn't matter who comes out of this game with the actual W. I don't know. I think Rosen's going to come away with this game, a lot better off than he did his first start. I don't know. I think the Cardinals are going to come away with this win, honestly.
All right, Bronson.
I'm going to take the Cardinals. I expect Rosen to play well. This will be his coming out party. We'll be talking about this game next week.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think the Cardinals finally get off to schneid. I honestly don't think there's going to be a team that finishes 0-16 or 1-15. Again, I don't think that the Cardinals are that good, but I don't even want to think about this matchup. And watch, we're going to be like, God, this matchup is going to be so boring. And then they both put up like 50 points or whatever. It's going to be the best game ever. So, but regardless of that, yeah, I've got the Cardinals winning this. I think Larry Fitzgerald comes in and catches a couple touchdown balls. So, Rams this week going up against the Seahawks, coming off a impressive performance.
Next one.
Yeah, I've got the Rams. I mean,
Rams.
John.
Rams.
Yeah, it's hard to pick against the Rams right now. They're definitely the most complete team right now. So give me the Rams right now.
Yeah. So, all right, and Bronson, you're up first since you wanted to cut me off so much about that game. Cowboys going into Houston, a good old fashioned Sunday night Texas shootout.
Matchup.
Good old Texas matchup. You bleed that Texas red, white, and blue Lone Star. Who you got?
The Houston Texans are going to win easy. Dallas's run game will definitely be prominent. Houston's run game will be very lacking. Houston's defense, in my opinion, is more experienced and more ready for the occasion. Dallas's defense is definitely up and coming. Sean Lee's banged up. DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller, to me, is a better tandem on the offensive side than anything that Dallas has going on. You can't rely on Ezekiel Elliott to run routes as a receiver every week and win as the only one catching balls. So, yeah, Houston's going to win that game.
Yeah, I've also got the Texans this week. I think you saw last week where both J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney both got sacks. And not only just sacks, they both got 2 sacks. You're starting to see J.J. Watt go back to his dominant defensive player of the year, ways. And you still got Jadeveon Clowney there against a still banged up offensive line. So I've got the Texans winning this one. I'm going to say 30-21. John?
Yeah, I got to agree with you guys. I mean, the Cowboys, the only exciting player on offense they got right now is Zeke. And the Texans are coming off a really big win. And unless the Cowboys get another solid receiver, maybe Des Bryant, who knows? I got to go with the Texans on this one, man.
Yeah, I think if they were going to sign Dez, this would be the game. They'll definitely see, because if they can torch the Texans, if they can't torch the Texans defensive backs, knowing that they're hurt and they don't really have the experience back there, they got old guys back there. If they can't torch them for a couple touchdowns, then it's time to bring back Dez. Then you've fucked up. So
definitely.
All right, final game for Week 5. It's the Monday Night Football matchup. I'm going to be watching this, probably with an erection. It is going to be the Washington Redskins going into New Orleans, Mercedes-Benz Dome, playing against the New Orleans Saints. Drew Brees is looking to break the all-time yardage record. He only needs 200-something yards, which I expect him to do against this defense. But John, you pick first. Who do you got?
This is actually a lot tougher game than it is to pick, honestly. I mean, the Saints are at home, the Redskins are looking pretty solid right now. Yeah, man. Honestly, this is just a really big toss-up. You might not like this pick, Max, but I'm gonna have to go with the Saints, man.
Okay. No worries there. Bronson?
Yeah, another tough game there, but I let's see. Fuck. Redskins coming off a bye. That's a hell of a thing you got going on, but you got the offensive mastermind and Sean Payton game planning against you guys. It's going to be a really close game, probably overtime. I'm going to fucking take... You know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to fucking do it. The Redskins will solidify themselves as the NFC East front runners, and they're going to win by 3 at home. Right? You guys play at home?
No, it's at
Saints.
New Orleans.
All right.
Still,
You guys
yeah,
win. Win by 3. You win by 3. I'm
I'm
gonna do it. This is gonna be the one that puts me in second or first place in the week. Y'all.
I think this is gonna be a good matchup. The key here is how we're gonna keep up against Michael Thomas, who should have been a first round pick. And I still don't understand why he wasn't a first round pick. He should have gone to the Redskins rather than Josh Doxson, but I digress. But like I say, you're gonna have to keep him.
Look for Cam Meredith to be the leader in receiving yards this week.
Yeah, and you're gonna have to keep Alvin Kamara at bay as well. But we have some athletic linebackers there. We have that interior pass rush. We're gonna make things a little bit heated for Drew Brees here. So I'm gonna say it's the Redskins. I'm gonna pick us. I feel confident enough that off the bye week we got some good stuff, got some guys healed up, and we've been game planning for this game. So, yeah, I'm going to pick the Redskins this week. And finally, because, like I said, we don't know our recording schedule, we're going to pick it just in case, because typically we record on Fridays. We got the Week 6 Thursday Night Football game. It is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles going against the New York Giants at the Meadowlands Stadium. Good old Rutherford, New Jersey. Still bothers me that they're the New York Jets and Giants that they play in New Jersey. I digress. I'm up first on this one. I got the Eagles. Like I said, I think the Eagles have the best pass rush in terms of the teams out there. They definitely bring a lot of pressure, and again, this Giants team is just all fucking full on the offensive line. John?
I think the New Jersey Giants are going to struggle as the season progresses. Just too many question marks all around the field. I got the Eagles on this game, man.
All right, Bronson, final pick.
The Giants do play very well against the Philadelphia Eagles, man. Yeah, they play so well against them. It's all. I mean, they call it what a miracle in the Meadowlands ever since it started there. Yeah, but I'm gonna have to go Eagles. I'm gonna have to do it. I can't right now. That offensive line is so bad.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, and that does it for our picks. That does it for this week's worth of podcasts. Like I said, we did a little early. It's still gonna come out on Friday, but it will be.
We did it a little early, but hella late. It's almost 2 o'clock, and I have to be up in 3 hours.
Past everyone's bedtime right now.
I am so sorry for you. So,
yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us. Of course, like I said, we are the new and improved Pass Interference podcast. You can catch us on all the aforementioned in the beginning. Podbean, iTunes, Google Play. It should be there momentarily. All that fun stuff. John. Soon to be Spotify, right? John, where can the people catch you? And also, any parting words?
You can catch me on Instagram and Twitter at NERRICH. Shout out to our former similar name of the podcast, Neutral Zone Infraction, my fellow Ravens fans. No beef. I know we had that semi-beef going on Twitter earlier, but shout out to you guys. Keeping it real, and let's go Ravens, baby.
And Bronson, where can the lovely people of Podcast Land find you on the social media, and any parting words?
Bronson Pompilio on Facebook. Good luck spelling that. I'm not gonna. And then on Twitter, it's Bronsonius. It's Bronson, IOUS. Don't spell Bronson with SIN because you're an asshole if you do.
Boom.
And then on Instagram, it's Chefman Bronson because, I cook food for a living for rich, white, bougie people. Anyway, if anyone wants to add me there, you can do it.
All right, and of course, I am on the Twitter at OG. That's capital O, capital G, Liquid Jesus, LIQUIDJESUS, if I can spell that properly. I'm tired as shit. For all you lovely podcast people, you can catch us on the Twitter at P_I_podcast. Like I said, everything has been fun. And Bronson, you have yourself a good time over in good old New York Comic Con. So snap lots of pictures, look at a bunch of boobies, have all that fun stuff. And with that, we are out. Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Peace.